This episode of Around the Layout is brought to you by Rapido Trains.
Buying Rapido trains will make you happy.
Haven't you heard? Rapido Trains has announced a U-boat load of General Electric U-Series locomotives, U-25Bs, U-30CGs, U-33Cs, and U-36Cs, and the U-34CH. You can check out all of these new releases and much more on their website, rapidotrains.com. Did the snow keep you from getting to the Railroad Hobby Show? No worries. Spring Creek Model Trains has you covered. Right now, ATLP listeners can take 5% off in-stock, regularly priced Rapido Trains products on their website through May 31st. Use code ATLPSPRING26 at checkout at springcreekmodeltrains.com. Serious about your model trains? Protect and organize your prize collection with modeltrainbox.com. Premium CNC cut foam storage boxes and transport cases for both HO and N scales, designed by modelers for modelers, with free U.S. shipping on every order. Durable, stackable, and built to last. Visit modeltrainbox.com and give your fleet the home it deserves. ATLP Extra is our monthly newsletter delivered right to your inbox each month. Sign up for free at atlpextra.com. Hello, everybody, and welcome to Around the Layout, where model railroaders come to tell their story. My name is Ray Arnott, so glad you could join us. It's time to find out what's happening in model railroading. Let's get started by finding out what's trending in the hobby with Mike Zucker from Spring Creek Model Trains.
Hey, everybody, this is Mike Zucker from Spring Creek Model Trains, and here's what's trending in model railroading. Recently arrived from Broadway Limited is the new Union Pacific business cars. This is a rerun of the Kennefic car plus the newly tooled Lone Star/Lincoln car. These come all with the great new lighting from Broadway Limited and all the multiple drum heads for your Union Pacific business train. Also trending from Broadway Limited is the future releases of their HO scale theater cars. Future releases coming with the Santa Fe, BNSF, Conrail, and CSX versions. We're looking forward to seeing these new streamlined versions from Broadway Limited. First time in HO scale since Brass, Scale Trains Museum Quality U50C. There are multiple versions in this iconic Union Pacific locomotive. Check that out from your local hobby store and get yours on pre-order now. Recently announced from Athearn Genesis, a new HO scale SD70 ACUs. This new run of locomotives is coming in the Ferromex Zebra paint scheme in the Norfolk Southern, and also the Canadian Pacific iconic Beaver, and also their script and block schemes. Be on the lookout for these new SD70 ACUs. Also, a new exciting announcement from Athearn Genesis is a new run of the LPG tank cars. This is coming in both scales, HO and N, with multiple paint schemes. This is a modern tank car that will work on anybody's layout. Check out the new release of the tri-level autoracks and HO scale from Class 1 Model Works. This new car comes in multiple versions with multiple road names per version. Check them out at your local hobby store and get these new tri-level autoracks for your model railroad. For the first time in HO scale, the recently released Wather's Mainline articulated NSC 53-foot well car. These are iconic well cars running on modern trains, several different versions of the TTX, and other leasing companies. We're always excited at Spring Creek Model Trains for new coal hoppers. Check out the newly announced RD6 coal hopper from Scale Trains, coming in BNSF and Norfolk Southern, and along with several Southeast utility companies. Check these out now, pre-order at your local hobby store. Exciting new arrival in HO scale to a hobby store near you is the Rapido Trains Cryotrans reefers. These are new reefers in Cryotrans, Lineage, and Union Pacific, with multiple paint scheme variations. These reefers are coming with sound or without sound, so check these out now and add to your reefer fleet. Another exciting reefer at your local hobby store now is the new Atlas N-Scale Cryogenic Reefer. Get this in multiple paint schemes, Cryotrans, Lamb Weston, Simplot, GATX, and add to your fleet of moving potatoes or vegetables across your railroad. This is Mike Zucker from Spring Creek Model Trains. You can always check us out on the web, springcreekmodeltrains.com, or contact the store, customer service at springcreekmodeltrains.com, or at one of the many shows that we travel across the country. Check out our show schedule on our website. This is Mike Zucker from Spring Creek Model Trains, and that's what's trending in model railroading.
Thank you, Mike, for that report. And now it's time for our deep dive. This is where we go beyond the press release with a newsmaker in the hobby. And joining me this month is Curtis Koch from Broadway Limited. Curtis, welcome to the show.
Ray, it's good to see you. Glad to see you made it back from Snowhurst or Amherst, all right?
Snowhurst. That's the first one I've heard to say Snowhurst. I like that.
But doing good and excited to have a good conversation with you today.
Yeah, looking forward to that. We get to spend a little bit of time in between the snowflakes at the Railroad Hobby Show up in West Springfield, Massachusetts. And I got to see quite a bit of new product that you had on display. And it even inspired me to purchase my very first Broadway Limited locomotive, an
there we go.
70 Ace, Delaware and Hudson. Got it from our good friends down at Train World. Ken Jr. Helping me out with that. So it was great to get a Broadway Limited locomotive in my hands. And I've been sharing that with a lot of friends. And I can't wait to get it over on Mark Herrick's layout, hook the heaviest train we can to it, and see how that die-cast pulls.
I was just going to say the die-cast SD70, that's a good puller for a modern era freight train, especially with, you can put a bunch of stacked cars behind it, loaded coal cars, however you want to do it. Lots of options.
Yeah, it's going to be a lot of fun to do that. And it looks phenomenal. I'm a huge fan. The weight is just incredible. And then the detail is really, really great. What a beautiful job NS did with that Delaware and Hudson paint too.
That's probably my favorite NS Heritage unit that they've released. And I know there's a lot of other ones. And being from the Illinois area, there's, of course, the Wabash, Illinois Terminal, and a few others that stick out. But that blue and silver paint is just striking. And it just looks so cool. So I was so glad we were able to incorporate that into HO and N scale production runs of our SD70 Ace models. And I'm glad you got one. I'm glad you're able to find one because they went quick after we announced those. They were really popular. Yeah,
I was very fortunate to get my hands on one. Very happy to have it. And again, it won't be my last Broadway Limited locomotive, but it certainly is my first. And I'm very impressed by the quality, the look. And again, can't wait to get that thing put to work over on the BNSF Montana division and anywhere else that I'm invited to bring it along. I'll definitely bring that along and use it to be a big puller on some layouts.
Absolutely.
So looking forward to going through some of the business car side of things. We were talking locomotives, but now let's move into business cars. And you had quite a collection of business cars on display at the Railroad Hobby Show, some new releases. So on this episode, we're going to go through those new releases and talk a little bit about them, a little bit of their history, and we're going to talk about how we can incorporate them in our operating sessions.
Yeah, there's a lot of areas to start. You were just talking about some of the new releases that we had for the business cars, and the Amherst announcement that we had was Conrail number 9 in various different versions, including the current version as it currently is with CSX. It's known as the W. Thomas Rice. And those cars are really unique. And I just want to give a big shout out to some of the guys at the Conrail Historical Society who were really instrumental in making sure that we got every detail on Conrail number 9 accurate. When you're doing some of these business cars, there's a lot of different era specific stuff that they do. And it could range from the underbody details. It can range from roof details, interior stuff. There's so many different examples of the changes that they make to these cars over the year. So having those guys be able to give input and lots of reference material and photos to give us for these cars, because a lot of these cars are rebuilt from old sleepers or diners or lounge cars, and they don't really have like official blueprints of it. They may have like a foot or a floor plan of the car, but to have an actual measured out blueprint diagram of these cars is nearly impossible to come by. So again, big thanks to them for their help in making these projects and being able to produce these cars at such a high level. And there's so many different operating things you can do with these cars in HO scale, from putting it on the back of a freight train Speaking of Conrail number 9, you can put it on the back of a business train with those E-units, those gorgeous E-units at the front. And there's plenty of other different versions of things that you can do with these cars. And they definitely add or catch a lot of eyes on your model railroad. If you choose to have it on a steam excursion or whatever you might have it on, they definitely catch your eyes.
So let's talk about Conrail number 9 a little bit. I would imagine it started life as Conrail number 9, and then you said it eventually became the W. Thomas Rice when they went over to CSX and CSX repainted it. Is that, am I understanding that correctly?
Yeah. So basically, in the car originally was a Canadian National Sleeper, and Conrail acquired the car, and at their Reading shops they rebuilt it, and they rebuilt it to originally number 23 in around 1982, and then it's most commonly known as Conrail number 9 because that's the most longest tenured of the number that it had up until the Conrail split with CSX and NS. The business car went to CSX and it was renumbered to 994009, and it was also renamed to Massachusetts. It still had its unique Conrail roof details until around the mid to late 2000s, and maybe early 2010s when it finally was rounded out the top of the roof. But that's a different detail we can go into a little bit later. But it had also another rename where it went from Massachusetts and it was renamed to Alabama. And then after its rebuild and it got the roof more smoothed out and everything, how it currently looks, it had a little bit of a difference in light package and everything. It's now painted in the B&O colors, and it's now named W. Thomas Rice after a former CSX president. So it's had a pretty unique history. Like I was saying earlier, a lot of these cars come from different backgrounds where they were originally on different railroads. The Conrail number 9 case, it was a CN car, and then it was a Via food service car, and then of course Conrail rebuilt it. And the unique thing about the Conrail theater car is definitely the roof detail, especially on the theater end where it's got these squared out roof section where it's got a retractable panel that protects the glass window on the back. And usually that was laid down when it was stored in a yard somewhere or transferring from place to place, or if it was behind any of the diesels, because usually they wanted to protect that window and keep it clean. So when executives did go on the train, and whether they were hosting people from potential customers to employee specials, whatever it might be, they wanted that glass to be as pristine, no cracks in it or anything, because that's a big piece of glass that would be costly to repair on that car. So it's definitely a unique car amongst the other theater cars that other railroads have. And it's interesting that car has also been on other railroads, not just Conrail. In 1987, there was like a joint operation between Conrail and Chicago Northwestern. So some of the cars were mixed together. So it allows to a lot of different variety and operations to do that. And it gets the name of the theater car because it's got the theater style seating in there where it's like you're almost like the name suggests you're walking in a movie theater. And as you start from the glass side of the car and walk your way back, the seats get higher and higher and higher. So it provides a really cool unobstructed view of the track as you're going down. And there was lots of other instruments in that car, from different clocks, speedometers, other measurement gauges. And it just gave a lot of good views for, like I said, railroad executives or clientele who were on the train, the rear as it was going down the track. And a lot of people will also look at that view and see the light package. You had the track inspection lights just above the trucks next to the anti-climber. You got the spotlights above the actual retractable door, protective panels, and then you also had the red marker lights. And these cars did also occasionally carry a Fred on the back, but the light package with the marker lights and track inspection lights and everything, it just has a really cool and unique appeal that you don't see on a lot of other business cars.
Did it ever live life as an actual track inspection car?
So these were called track inspection cars just because they were mainly not, I should clarify this way. They didn't have like geometry controls and stuff in there. They did have some brief moments where they had a couple of little instruments. So like I said, they would look at the rails and everything like that, especially with the lights right above the rail. But in terms of like any other materials in there, they'd have like, the outside temperature, the air outside temperature, the inside temperature, the speedometer, brake pressure, They had a lot of different stuff. Now it's kind of been a little bit more modernized, where some of the cars actually have TV monitors, like on Union Pacific, for example. Some of these cars are actually retrofitted with antennas that relay video feed in and out to the back of the car. But the interior has changed over time, where it went from a theater style seating to more of like a lazy boy lounge sort of style seating at the front. They still have the theater style seating near the back of it, but the front of it has different sort of chairs. What was the kitchen area for the cars has now become a locker room on Conrail number 9 or CSX W. Thomas Rice. It's currently a locker room for employees. And then now they just have basically where the lounge area would be. It's got like a mini fridge stacked with drinks, a coffee machine, some cabinets to store stuff, etc. So they call it a track inspection car because it's more of just you have the track inspection lights on there, but it really was, a lot of these cedar cars were used to impress clientele or potential customers that the railroad executives or families who are riding on this train could get a nice view of it.
So you're covering the Conrail number 9, and then you have the later version, like you said, the more modern version, the CSX W. Thomas Rice, both available as pre-orders, correct?
Yeah, available for pre-order now. We, like I said, announced these at Amherst. So we had 3D print models actually out on the table, and we'll have some 3D print models available at different shows that we go to. So if you're looking to kind of see firsthand what these cars look like or will look like when they come to HO scale, you just come by our booth and you'll get a good glimpse of them. Want to big another shout out to our friends at 3D Central for making those prints because they look really, really phenomenal. You got some time to get your order in. You got till August 6th of this year. And we expect these cars to arrive in the spring of 2027. But even though there's still a lot of times to get your pre-order in, I still suggest that you do, because a lot of times when we go to shows and stuff, we hear from people that I missed out on a car, or a particular locomotive, whatever it might be, because they wanted to see what it looked like when it came in, or they just forgot about it. And ultimately now they're struggling to look for one or find one. And so then it becomes to a point where you're scouring the interwebs, and sometimes Train World can't save you because they might be sold out. So you have to really kind of go digging around and look for where you are able to get one. But we always recommend getting a pre-order in and getting a reservation for these. And for some of these cars that we've done, putting in a pre-order, especially if you model Conrail or CSX and you want to see more business cars produced, we kind of are taking a little bit of a risk by making some of these cars because we just don't know the market for some of these Class 1 railroads. Like when we saw the numbers come in for the UP Kennefic, when we announced that about 1.5 to 2 years ago, we were kind of taking a risk at that because nobody has really ever done these cars outside of brass. And the brass cars, if you are to try to get one, range anywhere between $1,500 to $2,000, depending upon the prototype you want to acquire. So it can be costly. And for us to get a good glimpse as to what the market is for some of these cars, a pre-order not only just reserves the car that you get, but it tells us where the market's at and can open the door for plenty of other potential business cars from these railroads down the road. The UP is the good example for us because once we saw how strong the Kennefic sales were, we immediately started looking into other business car potential. And that led to the Power Car 2066. That led to the Fox River Theater car. And now it's gotten to the point where now we're starting to branch off into these other roads. We just had the order deadline pass for the Santa Fe and BNSF versions of the track inspection car of the William Barstow Strong. And now we're branching into CSX and Conrail with these cars. So there's potential for other cars down the road. But like I said, in order for us to tell kind of where the market is with these, it's best to put in a pre-order. Not only, like I said, are you reserving the cars, but you're helping us impact potential future releases of these different cars.
You hinted at some other business car releases. Why don't you tell us what else is in the new lineup?
Yeah, so just released earlier last month was the Fox River track inspection car for Union Pacific. We've been talking about Conrail number 9. It's the same sort of style, but it's for Union Pacific. That car also has a really unique history. I mentioned the Chicago Northwestern business train with the Conrail, how they had that. Well, the Fox River was the Chicago Northwestern version of this car. And the Chicago Northwestern version of the track inspection theater style car then became part of Union Pacific when UP bought C&W or merged with C&W in 1995. And UP then rebuilt it and modernized it a little bit. And it's gone through a couple of different phases over the years where it had originally a gray roof after that. And on our models, we actually were really great with these road specific details, because the HO scale version of the Fox River, if you actually look at the 3 UP and the C and W, or the 2 UP and the C and W versions, I should say, the C and W version of the Fox River actually has an extra roof, or an extra, window, which is prototypically accurate for the C and W version. And it's got some details on the top of the roof for the C and W that were removed and replaced with different versions of UP. So once the UP took over, they rebuilt it. They changed the light package. The C and W car had, if you look at the comparison of the photos, you have a herald at the top that had the C and W logo that was lighted, and 2 red marker lights. And then at the bottom, you had dual track inspection lights on each side. So you had 4 track inspection lights next to the anti-climber on the bottom of the window side there. And then once UP rebuilt it, they went ahead and thought, what's better than 4 lights at the bottom? They made it 6. And they had a trio of lights at the bottom there, right below the glass window. But they kept it to where they still had the spotlights at the top, where they replaced the herald, and then they kept the red marker lights. And then after 2006, UP modified it again. They added these antennas on both sides of the car. And these antennas are video relay antennas, because UP actually has TV monitors in there. And what they do is they have a front view. They actually put, and if you look at some videos on YouTube, you'll find the front of the train will have these antennas, and it will actually send a live video relay feed to the rear of the train. So people who are riding on the rear of the train can also get a view of the front of the train on those TV monitors up there on right above the glass window on those cars. So all these cars that we've done have road specific details. They really add a lot of really unique modeling opportunities, whether it be, 2 or 3 cars behind a single diesel, whether it be behind, in the Union Pacific's case, the big boy, the Challenger 3985 when it was in excursion service, or the FEF 844 or 8444 at 1.2. These cars add a lot of variety and operating capabilities onto your layout. You might be a more modern day modeler, but if you're looking for an excuse to run, the steam, especially with the big boy be coming on tour soon, and it's going to be making, you're out your way, right out to New York, possibly at some point.
I heard some rumors. Yeah.
Yeah. If that does come into fruition, then, you're going to have an opportunity to have some of these cars on your train, because that they're going to include some of these cars in there. The last few big boy tours they've had have included all of the cars that we've released: the Fox River, the Kennefic, the Lone Star, Lincoln, and the Power Car 2066 too. So they have a ton of different modeling opportunities for you to go ahead and mix and match whatever you might want to do on the UP side. There's just so many different cool things. You could also I didn't even mention the E-units that they still have stored in Cheyenne too. So there's a lot of opportunities for some cool modeling things to do on your railroad. It's not just creating a 20 car passenger excursion. You can do it with a few cars and a diesel, and you'll be good to go.
What's really neat is that you're able to model 40 years worth of this car's history within 3 models, that you've covered that big gap, and it will fit a multitude of different layouts for sure.
Yeah. And it's nice too, because you can, like I said, you have so many different opportunities to specifically model from something from a steam excursion all the way up to a modern, just short inspection train. And that goes for all of them, not just for Union Pacific, but the BNSF cars that we're doing of the William Barstow Strong, and going back, dating it more to the Santa Fe version of those cars too. We've got era specific and road specific details on all of those cars. And even if you're not a modern BNSF or Santa Fe modeler, we do have a stainless steel unlettered version. So you can decal it to whatever, fantasy railroad you might have at home, or freelance railroad, if you want to have something like that represented on your railroad. And there's so many different cool things that these cars bring, not only just from an operational standpoint, but it does bring a little bit of that bygone era of, train travel, where you had the stainless steel or armor yellow coaches. It's not just on the back of an Amtrak train, where you see some of these more heavyweight cars. There is a purpose for these cars on a lot of railroads.
So I'm perusing your website, broadway-limited.com, and I see the page here that has the Fox River cars, all three options. And then I see some cars below that. Tell us a little bit about those.
Yeah, so some of these cars are a little bit hard to do as all being road specific. When you look at the Fox River and some of the I guess you could say FUBI schemes that we had, where you have a Canadian National, you had the Illinois Central and with the black and gunmetal aluminum, and you have Norfolk Southern. Some of these cars, if they don't have a really deep history, it's kind of hard to replicate that into a one type of tooling, because when we're building these cars, we want to try to get as many variations of it as we can. And a lot of times when you're looking at some of these cars, especially for the like Illinois Central version, it's pretty close to how the window arrangement is and how some of the details are to the UP version, but it's not a specific 100% accurate towards the Illinois Central version. But adding these different versions to this car helps with the tooling costs for us, because it offers more availability. It offers more flexibility for modelers to be able to pick something that they might have. I mentioned earlier about the Conrail E-units that one of our competitors, Rapido, did. It's really cool, too, that we've actually even had the chance to work with Rapido a little bit, because the Conrail number 9, the paint on that is going to match the Rapido E-units. They were kind enough to give us the paint codes for that. Same thing with the IC track inspection car that's in the Fox River tooling. Rapido gave us the paint codes for that, and we were able to go ahead and match those. So it'll be a pretty close match to that. Unfortunately for like Norfolk Southern modelers, and I hate to say this, but the Buena Vista track inspection car that they have, the theater car, is a little bit of a one-off, which means that it's too tough for us to make that car 100% accurate without having to basically find any others that would be remotely close to it. The light package is a little bit different compared to other cars. The roof height is a lot taller than other cars. So it offers a chance for us to bring these cars to market. While it might not be 100% accurate, a lot of modelers have purchased these cars because it's right now, at least, the closest thing that they'll get to an accurate version of that. But it also opens up the door for us to see, okay, there's a lot of people who like this Norfolk Southern car or CN car that's not fully accurate, but how many more can we get if we were to do this accurate? And it kind of just gives us a good ballpark estimate, if you will, as to what the market is out there for some of these cars. And like I said, the longer the history, the better. We've been talking, so much about the history of the Fox River and the versions that it's had with UP. Well, Conrail number 9, we talked about how it's had its different versions with CSX. So the more versions of one car that we can get without having to do too much tooling and adjustments to it, the more likely it is for us to bring that car to market.
How many thousands of Norfolk Southern fans would have to come out of the woodwork and pre-order to start looking at a more accurate version of the Buena Vista?
Well, the good news is that we are looking at a few different Norfolk Southern cars right now that have been kind of shared from other railroads, specifically from Southern, specifically from the Conrail days too. So there's a few versions of Norfolk Southern cars that are out there that we're currently exploring. But right now, I can't reveal what those are yet, but they are. Norfolk Southern is definitely one on our radar, especially with the popularity of the executive F units that just came out from us about 3 or 4 or 5 months ago. Those were really, really popular. They were by far the most popular paint scheme and versions of those F units that we've offered in that road name. So it's been really cool to see people react to that. And not only just that, those F units went to two others, two other regional railroads with the Aberdeen, Carolina, and Western, and Reading and Northern, where they have new homes now. So it allows us to even explore more opportunities for that tooling. So for NS modelers, there's some stuff on the horizon that I can't reveal just yet, but there are plenty of other people that are out there. But to answer your question, I don't have an exact number as to what specifically we would need from NS modelers to get it there, but that's why we have our product suggestion portal, because it does give us an opportunity for NS modelers that if they really want a NS Buena Vista done accurately, and if we get enough requests in that portal, then it all indicates to us, okay, I think we can look at maybe doing this as a one-off or something like that.
Oh, awesome stuff. And we'll share all the links to all of that at aroundthelayout.com/220. And then I see right at the bottom, Freelancer's Heaven, an unlettered painted primer gray version of that car. So again, those freelance railroads and adding business cars to them, they're really an easy option with the unlettered, undecorated car.
Yeah, and it gives you the opportunity to decorate it however you want, and not only just paint style, but you can put up the marker lights and some of the other parts on there. And all the parts are in a little bag in the box. So it allows you to easily paint the car body first and then go ahead and add the separate parts. So then you're not accidentally getting paint on like the red lens for the red marker lights or whatnot. So it does give you some other modeling opportunities for sure. But that's why we've been doing it with that. We've done it with the HO scale version of the William Barstow Strong. We're using the Santa Fe tooling on that one. And then we also are doing it with the Conrail type track inspection car. You can get that in unlettered in primer gray. And then we're also doing it with CSX and unlettered in primer gray too. So you can, again, if you don't like the UP version or you don't like the Santa Fe version, but you think Conrail 9's cool, you can go on our website and find the item number there and then go ahead and place your pre-order with whomever you order your trains from.
We've been teasing those Santa Fe and BNSF fans a bit with these last couple cars. Let's dive into it. Let's talk about what's available for BNSF and Santa Fe.
Yeah, so this is all one car that's gone through its history. This is the William Barstow Strong. It started out life as a Santa Fe track inspection car, and it's number 89. This was before it was named the William Barstow Strong. But the car had like this nuclear kind of sciencey sign to it. And it had a unique light package where it had two lights on the bottom next to the coupler. And then it had two red marker and green marker on the top. And then the underbody details were slightly different between 1975 and 1982. In 1982, the car received modifications to its underbody side. And we went ahead and made sure that those were all accurate. And if you go on our website, Broadway-Limited.com, you can actually see, you can pull up the two products and you can actually notice the underbody detail differences there. After 1990, the car then was modified again. It received a new retractable door for the panels to protect the glass. It was then named William Barstow Strong, and it kept the number 89. And this car was most commonly used or most commonly found on the back of many Santa Fe executive cars. It was kind of a showpiece, like for many corporate sales or promotional trips. It was most notably in a Rose Bowl or a Rose Parade special. And it was also behind Steam Locomotive 3751 when it did an employee appreciation special in 1992. And it carried many different corporate executives, who the Santa Fe was trying to pursue business with. In the late 1980s, that when I said it was renamed to William Barstow Strong, that was in part because Santa Fe President Michael Haverty wanted to honor the president of the Santa Fe at the time, William Barstow Strong, for his kind of visionary of the railroad from the 1880s. That's where Barstow, California comes from after the Santa Fe president.
Wow.
So like I said, we're building this car in 6 different types with, era specific details, with multiple different appearances. So for the Santa Fe guys, you're covered for the length of that life of this car on the Santa Fe. And don't worry, BNSF guys, we got you covered too. We have this car represented across multiple different production runs, or eras in which the car was covered. Starting off with, of course, after it was in its Santa Fe appearance, BNSF went ahead and renumbered it, so it became BNSF number 32. Its name got changed to William B. Strong. It had Burlington Northern Santa Fe written out on the top. It had a white roof. Then it also had the early BNSF logo where it had the blue Santa Fe cross, but then they had a green circle around it. I believe that's Heritage One logo is what they technically call it. But it appeared in that way up until 2008. After 2008, it began getting the swoosh logo that many BNSF guys will know. And then there was, of course, different roof arrangements. There's different antennas, a GPS dome on it. And it also still retained the number 32. So, and then the William Barstow Strong was on the bottom of the car body where it was written out, but then it was moved to the top. So if you go ahead and on our website, you'll be able to see visually all of these different detail variants by just clicking on the different SKU items that we have. And then we also got it in its appearance from 2013 to 2018. And then, of course, we have it in its present day appearance. So we have different body types. We have different underbody details. We have different roof arrangements. We even have gone as far as to slightly tint the windows on these to kind of make it look like the FRA glazing on those. So we've really gone the extra mile on these BNSF and Santa Fe track inspection cars. And they're perfect behind any BNSF modern day diesel. You can get a couple of Walthers cars too, and just plop this car on the back and you're going to be good to go. And like I was saying earlier, if the demand is strong for these cars, it opens up the opportunity for plenty of other Santa Fe or BNSF inspired cars. I know personally, I would like to see us try to do the ex Southern Pacific bi-levels that have been rebuilt into those business cars too. There's just so many different modeling opportunities there. But it's definitely a car worth pre-ordering if you are a BNSF modeler. I can already see this car looking great behind a couple of locomotives on the Fall River division. I can already see how sharp that would look, especially with the lights and everything on. So it's a perfect home for a lot of you West Coast guys.
Yeah, I'm sure they're the BNSF fans that listen to this podcast. I'm sure are excited about this car, including John Parker in his Fall River division. I know Mark Herrick in his BNSF Montana division, and so many others checking this out. Plus, you got all of our good Santa Fe folks with Sammy Carlisle. Lots and lots of folks that are either Santa Fe folks or BNSF folks. This is going to be a great car for them. It's also interesting to me that BNSF went from having William B. Strong, then went back to William Barstow Strong, and then went back to William B. Strong again on the car. So they couldn't decide whether or not to put his middle name on there and complete or just the initial. But nonetheless, very cool that you covered all the variants. It's not like you have to make any sacrifices. You pick the era that your railroad is in and get the right car for it.
Yeah. And you know what? Some of the cool things about these cars is that they receive, like you were just saying, so many different detail variants. And it's cool for us to be able to bring those different like nameplate changes and everything to market. I personally have a Santa Fe version on order, and I also have the Stewart brass version that I paid an arm and a leg for several years ago before I worked for Broadway. So I know how popular these cars are going to become for a lot of guys. And it's really cool too, is these cars really, like I was saying earlier, they do represent that bygone era of that stainless steel sides and everything like that. And it's really cool to see some of these unique cars get received so well. When I go to different shows, it's so cool to see. I never thought I would see a manufacturer make this. We get, so many different compliments from so many listeners and people who are fans of Broadway or BNSF or whatever railroad that they or manufacturer that they like. They come up and they're like, I love these cars so much. They are pretty innovative, not only just from bringing them to market, but with the touch lighting on there where you don't have to have a wand. You don't have to worry about possibly programming a decoder with the different light functions. You just simply touch certain areas of the roof and you can just go and it'll run with those light functions going. It really does add a really fun opportunity onto your railroad. And you don't have to, like I said, risk losing a wand or anything like that.
And on top of that, I mean, I'm just going through your website. There are so many other cars that are also available to add to this train beyond the ones that we talked about tonight.
Yeah, there's so many different versions. The heavyweights in two are also been really popular. The heavyweight business cars, in particular, if you are not a more modern day guy, but you like some of the older versions of heavyweight business cars, we've got so many different variations from B&O. We've gone as far as to even do the American Freedom Train, the 1947 Freedom Train, and we even modified some of our tooling because some of the cars on that 1947 Freedom Train were P70 coaches, and we've built the P70s in the past. So we went ahead and modified the tooling so it matches the plated over version of those cars where they have, they have a Golden Eagle and then they have another version that says Freedom Train on it as well. So you can have multiple different versions of these cars available that, you don't have to dip into the modern era tows that many people are going after these days. You can, backdate some of these cars and you'll have a nice representation of things on your layout. And that, 1947 Freedom Train is perfect just in time for the 250 celebration this year. So there's tons of other opportunities where you can, have fun, go outside, of your modeling comfort zone, if you will, and then add some cool, stylish passenger cars onto your railroad.
I know a lot of railroads are getting into the spirit with the 250th birthday of the United States. Do you foresee them doing anything with business cars?
I know they've been doing a lot of locomotives. I know we were just talking about the Big Boy Tour earlier. I know that UP has said that they are going to be painting a special locomotive in that case. I haven't seen anything related to business car stuff, but if a Kennefic is painted in a 250 scheme, we could probably bring that into a future run of that. We're definitely open to some of that stuff. But the only time I've seen some of these cars painted in a different version has been related to the Olympics. I know the UP had, when the Atlanta or Olympics were in Atlanta, the Kennefic actually had Olympic style like lettering, and then it was sponsored by Coca-Cola. So Coca-Cola had a logo on it too. Some of that would be cool to do, but the licensing fees for some of those are just too expensive for some of the smaller guys like us to really kind of dive into, especially the Olympics. Because some of those Olympics cars and even like the more semi-modern diesels like the 2001 and 2002 for the SC70s that UP had for Salt Lake, that's so hard to get licensing for. And it also just, like I said, expensive to do so. So as much as we'd love to do that, if there was a car that was painted that way, we would absolutely look into it. We did actually kind of dive into, this is a little bit off topic for 250, but with the friends at Train World, we did a CSX version of the Kennefic car, but painted it for the CSX Santa train. So we actually had the new modern-ish scheme that they had, not the B&O one, the one before that, and then added different colored dots to kind of represent the Christmas lights that would be on the car, because that is a tradition unlike any other in railroading, that Santa train that goes through the Allegheny Mountains and visits those coal communities and everything like that. So we were able to do that and replicate that, but not be entirely accurate as it was a CSX scheme on a UP car. But it's still fun to bring some of those visions to life that you wouldn't normally see.
So, Curtis, you presented quite a list here of business cars. What inspires Broadway Limited to produce these business cars?
Well, that's a great question. It kind of stems for trying to find unique gaps in the market that we can kind of attack and hit. You've seen a few other manufacturers do this. I know Rapido has really hit kind of like the transit scene with like the Chicago L cars and a few other things like that. For us, it was kind of unique to try to get into something that really hasn't been done. And a lot of these business cars, like many people have been told before, I've been told this by customers a few times, that a lot of other manufacturers have been a little nervous to do these cars because they are so many one-offs and you don't really get the value out of your tooling for, multiple production runs. You really kind of make your money, at the beginning because people are going to want one specific car. But we've been able to kind of navigate around that by offering, like for the Kennefic and the Lone Star and Lincoln cars, different named versions or different drum heads that the car wore. So in the UP case, it really works out for us. And, the same thing with the BNSF and Conrail cars, where there's different history of different detail variants that we can bring into that. That also really helps us out. But the inspiration behind this was it's no secret that we at Broadway make a lot of steam locomotives. We've made all of the big UP excursion stars, from the big boy with 4014 to 844 and 3985. And most people who have a UP excursion train that run at clubs or run at any shows that you see, most people will tell you that they had a hard time finding a affordable tail car on the end that wasn't a dome car. And that was a market that I know, me personally, being even though I am a Santa Fe guy, I did as a kid ride behind the Challenger 3985. I grew up in the Chicago area, and it came to Chicago, and my dad and I got to ride in a dome car on one of those trips. And so for me to bring an opportunity like that to where you say, hey, these cars really haven't been tackled before. This is an untapped market. It really just kind of opened the door. So once we saw the reception for the Kennefic on that first run, that really opened the door for us to say, okay, let's start thinking of other railroads we can get into. Let's start looking at different versions of things that we can do where we can tap that market that really hasn't been touched yet before in plastic by a manufacturer. So that opportunity was there for us. And I'm so glad that, the bosses at Broadway listened to me for some of those suggestions, because I love modeling business trains, whether it be UP or BNSF or Santa Fe, whatever it might be. They're just so cool to catch. And there's so many unique versions of different consists that you can model. When you go onto YouTube and just search up Union Pacific OCS, you will see lots of videos, hundreds of videos of different arrangements of cars and different motive power leading. So it really is kind of that perfect storm where you have a unique car at an affordable price that really brings a really cool opportunity for people to model something that you really haven't seen before. And I know the reception has been really strong, and we're really thankful for people for placing their pre-orders and getting behind us on that and everything. So I think that's the big inspiration for us, is seeing the reception that we get at shows and seeing what people are wanting for us to do next. I can't tell you how many times guys have come up and asked to do a specific business car. And, I can tell them like, yeah, that's a good idea. We'll definitely remember that one for down the road or something like that. And it's just cool to see the reception that we get, because there are a lot of people who like to model those business trains.
And one of those projects that you mentioned, I think it was really neat, going back to the Lone Star and then being able to do different things with the drum heads, including the exclusive that you did with Spring Creek Model Trains. And of course, the Building America drum head and the 150 years drum heads and all the different things that you can do with these cars by putting them out and providing that, like you said, unique business car for every layout.
Yeah, and it also adds a lot of opportunity to model specific trains. I know a lot of guys who have come up to me and they've said, I want to, especially when we released the Kennefic, because the Kennefic was the tail car on President George Bush's funeral train several years ago. And a lot of people have wanted to model that train. And so a lot of guys have asked me what other cars were on that. And I tell them, the Lone Star was in that. And when you look at some of the history that these cars are involved with, such as a funeral train or a specific excursion train or whatever it might be, it really does add a new element to so many different modeling opportunities. I know we've been stressing on this a lot, but the more opportunities that there's a drum head on a version of a car, it just adds to different trains that you can model. And I know some guys will say, why didn't you just, make the drum head swappable? But it really is the best way for us to balance out a production run where we're not just building one type with, one version of a handrail that people, want to swap in and out. And the fact that we can make it lighted too is also a really fun feature that a lot of customers love to have. So it really does balance it out for us. And it's great to see that, the opportunities are endless for people who want to model these cars and we get these business trains on their layouts.
Well, one thing you can do, whether it be purchasing them and using them as is, or do what I've done, which is take a Santa Fe heavyweight business car and customize it. We'll soon see the new Around the Layout podcast business car that was created with a BLI Santa Fe heavyweight business car. So looking forward to announcing that very soon. Stay tuned for that. But beautiful car, and the magic of the touch lighting. That what a great revolution that is. No wand to lose and try to find, and you just reach out, touch the car, and control the lighting. That's absolutely beautiful. And then the detail is phenomenal on all of these cars.
Well, thank you. Yeah, it's really hard to combine the detail element on some of these cars with so many different variations of changes that they've received over the years. But nonetheless, they're great. They're going to be looking fantastic on your railroad, and you should buy as many as you want.
There you go. Great plug. Tell us where we can find more on Broadway Limited.
Yeah, so you can go onto our website, broadway-limited.com. Also, be sure to go and like us on Facebook, follow us on Instagram, Twitter, X, whatever you might use, TikTok, YouTube. We're all over the place. So make sure that you go ahead and follow us on all those social media platforms, because we do try to keep up and keep people up to date with things that are going on. And we post, new samples, photos, and things like that. So it's a really fun way to stay connected, and you can meet other people who are also Broadway fans and Broadway customers. But the website and our social media platforms, especially Facebook and Instagram, are the places to be. And if you want to stay up to date on like future releases or anything like that, if you go on our website and you scroll down right past the CV setter that we have on the screen, on the front of the screen. You scroll down, you'll see the newsletter. You can subscribe to our newsletter where you'll get updated information on things coming out. And then also, if you go onto our website and you go under the tab for the Conductors Club, you will find the product suggestion portal. And that is where if you have a project you want to submit to us that you want to see a specific business card be made, and if you got photos of it, better, because that's a good visual for us to see any correlation between other toolings that we can possibly use. You just go ahead and you click the button to suggest it. Let us know what version of the car or a specific car you want to see made, and an HO or N scale, and we'll be happy to do that. And N scalers, I know we were talking a lot about HO scale cars, but N scalers, I can share with you, we are looking to bring the Kennefic and the Fox River to N scale. We're really close to announcing those at some point. So stay tuned for that, because some of those business cars will be making your way to N scale.
Excellent news for N scalers and for HO scalers alike. We'll share all the links that Curtis just mentioned on our website, aroundthelayout.com/220. Curtis Koch, Broadway Limited, thank you so much for coming by and sharing all of what we need to know about business cars.
Thanks for letting me ramble, Ray. I appreciate it.
And now it's time for the RPM report. Let's turn it over to Eric Hansmann.
It's time for your Railroad Prototype Modeler Report. The season has begun to change, and I see 10 RPM events with dates from March through May. It's definitely prototype modeling season. RPM Valley Forge in southeastern Pennsylvania and a C&O Modelers Meet in southern West Virginia are set for the 3rd March weekend. The Central of Georgia RPM will be held the last March weekend in Macon, Georgia. April kicks off with 2 events on the same day and half a world apart. A modeler meet will be held in Sylvania, Ohio, near Toledo, and one in Sydney, Australia. RPM Carolinas in Charlotte, North Carolina, opens on the first weekend in May. The annual Railway Modelers Meet is set for May 22nd through 24th in Vancouver, British Columbia. And the New England RPM closes out May in Springfield, Massachusetts. I am really looking forward to attending this year. For information and links to these and more upcoming events, check the RPM calendar link at aroundthelayout.com/RPM. Make plans to attend a prototype modeler meet near you. I'll be back next month with another RPM report. Until then, let the prototype be your guide.
Well, thank you, Eric. And now it's time to find out what's happening in and around ATLP Universe. There's quite a few train shows going on in the next month or so, starting with the world's greatest hobby on tour at the Dallas Market Hall in Dallas, Texas, March 28th and 29th. The Rocky Mountain Train Show at the National Western Complex in Denver, Colorado is April 11th and 12th. And the New Braunfels Train Show at the New Braunfels Civic Center in New Braunfels, Texas, April 25th and 26th. Also that weekend, make plans to head to Deschler, Nebraska for the Spring Creek Model Trains N-Scale Fremo Weekend. That'll be at the Thayer County Activity Center in Deschler, April 25th and 26th. And Spring Creek Model Trains will have special hours at their store, so you'll be able to browse, shop, and also see the N-Scale Fremo setup over at the Thayer County Activity Center. We've been talking about it for a while, and it's nearly here. The Sydney RPM in Sydney, Australia is happening on April 18th. We will do 2 Around the Layout podcast lives from Sydney, Australia. We'll start on Friday night here in the United States at 9 p.m. as we'll go live from the Sydney RPM. And then the next night, Saturday night, we will also go live at 9 p.m. We'll do that from Paul Cassar's River Beltline. We'll share his layout, we'll chat, we'll recap the Sydney RPM and all the other events. We'll take your comments and questions live on both shows, so be sure to tune in. To learn more about Around the Layout podcast, head to our website, aroundthelayout.com. And that's what's happening in model railroading. We'll see you again next month. Thank you for joining us for this episode of Around the Layout. Learn more about today's episode, check out past shows, and much more on our website, aroundthelayout.com. Show your support by becoming an operating crew member at aroundthelayout.com/crew. Follow us on social media, aroundthelayout.com/social. And send us your feedback, aroundthelayout@gmail.com. Thanks for hanging out with us around the layout.